Oh, this movie dropped 1 Rotten Tomatoes percentage while we were in the movie.
Uh-oh, it's crumbling.
A disgruntled critic has left the theater. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Ride Home Podcast. My name is Abby.
Hey, guys, it's Caitlin.
We're in a mood tonight. Oh, this is what happens. I feel like when we see 5 o'clock movies, we leave and we're just like ready
We're like,
to.
Woo!
Yeah. We're
Let's
ready to
light
party.
this shit up.
And then when we leave, like at 9 p.m., we're an actual corpse.
We're like, this is the ride home.
I'm like poking you to wake up.
And my name is Caitlin.
We're always out of breath
Yeah.
a little bit. Why are we so out of breath?
Maybe like as the day goes on, we like lose oxygen saturation or something.
Something
I
like
don't
that.
know.
But right now, I feel pretty chipper and skippy. How do you feel?
I feel on fire.
You feel great?
Mm-hmm.
So we just got out of the theater and we saw a horror comedy satire. I don't even really know how to explain it,
A
but
little
it's,
bit of everything.
it leans horror for
Mhm.
sure. It is Mark Millad's The Menu.
Yes.
So the movie stars one of our favorite actresses currently
Mhm.
working, which is Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
Love her. And it also stars Ray Fiennes and Nicholas Hoult as like the main 3 of the cast, but also
Mhm.
like John Leguizamo is in it and some
Yeah.
other people that you'll recognize. But the synopsis is a young couple travels to a remote island to eat at an exclusive restaurant where the chef has prepared a lavish menu with some shocking surprises.
Mm.
So,
Dun, dun, dun.
yeah. So, starting off the spoiler-free section, Caitlin, what are your thoughts and feelings just coming right out of the movie theater?
I liked it.
Okay. That wasn't very strong.
No, I did really like it. I
Mhm.
thought there were some really funny moments. I thought there were some really terrifying moments. It was very twisted.
Very disturbing.
I don't know if I liked it enough for it to be like a 91. Well, it was a 92 and now it's a 91 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right.
So I guess I'm just having a hard time like being like, wow, what a great film.
Right.
But like I really enjoyed it. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
So, I personally think that maybe we were a little bit a victim of... I don't know if it's that we needed a better audience with us or what was happening, but for some weird reason, we were the only 2 people laughing.
Yeah.
And I think one of the highlights of the movie, personally, was that it was a dark comedy. It
Mhm.
was very much a twisted, sick, disturbing comedy. And, like, that's my cup of tea.
Right.
Like, I was just, like, indulging on it, quite
Mhm.
literally. And no one in our theater was laughing.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, that was kind of my biggest hang up with the whole experience of seeing this movie, because I felt like you and I kept like wanting to laugh.
And you didn't want to be like that asshole that's like cackling in the back of the theater, but also like there were some really funny parts that I wanted to laugh at.
Like really funny.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe it was just lost on everyone else.
Yeah.
Because I live with you and
Right.
I've just I'm used to your brand of
You
humor.
live with me?
Yeah, we live together. So
Oh, that's crazy.
Spoiler alert. We do live together.
Do we like get married or something?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just like a little bit, a touch,
A
a
touch
year
of
and like a
marriage.
skosh.
So you know my sense of humor.
So I know your sense of humor.
Right.
I also kind of have a dark sense of humor. And
We have
so
very similar senses of
we
humor.
really do.
Yeah.
so that was honestly one of my favorite parts about the movie was
Right.
the humor and the
Yes.
and the dark comedy.
Uh-huh.
But it really bothered me that we couldn't really allow ourselves to enjoy that.
And also, there was like a weird guy in the back that was talking to himself, and the dude behind us was wearing a ski mask. So, like, the whole movie, we were just...
he was?
You didn't notice that?
No.
The guy directly behind us was wearing a ski mask.
Covering his face?
He took it off to eat his popcorn, and then he put it back on.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
That's very disturbing.
He wasn't white, so I was less scared.
Okay.
If it was like a white man in a ski mask, I would have
left.
I would have
I
been
feel.
like, "Hey, so we're leaving now."
Yeah.
But it's okay.
We'll see this another
So
day.
I've seen like black men wear ski masks before, so I wasn't like too freaked out.
Right.
But if it was a white dude, we would have checked out in like
yeah,
a split
peace
second.
the fuck out.
So yeah, it was an awkward group that we were with, but maybe they just weren't prepared for that kind of a movie at a 5 p.m. showing on a Thursday.
Yeah, I was questioning who was there as soon as we walked
Yeah.
in. I was like, I don't think they know what this is.
So the key thing that I need everyone to know about this movie, and that I'm going to tell you right now, which I was very excited to tell you about when I opened up Google, is that this movie was co-written by the editor of The Onion.
Oh.
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Why do I like him more now?
right?
Like, it just makes more sense to me.
Yeah. It's almost the same thing as like whenever you see an Onion article online and like in the
Mhm.
comments, there's always like one person that took it seriously and
Yeah.
is like, hey guys, that actually isn't funny because like there are real people struggling in this world. Like it was kind of
You're
like that.
It's the Onion. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, sweetie, it's the Onion. Like
Mm-mm.
it's
Yeah,
a joke.
Satire.
So I think there were some people that thought that it was like
A serious movie.
they thought it was a serious movie, and they also, I think they thought that it was like a heady horror,
Mm.
which like heady horror is very hard for a lot of people to get into. So like Midsummer or
Mhm.
like Speak No Evil, which was one that came out this year that I saw, where it's that very slow paced, usually quite disturbing. Like it's
Mhm.
usually way more than just like a slasher killing people. It's
Mhm.
just like twisted
Gets in your
shit
head.
and gets in your
Yeah.
head. Absolutely. This was almost a satire of
Of
heady
that.
horror.
Yes, it was.
And I loved it for that. But I think everybody else in the theater with us thought that it was a heady horror and they hated it. And so, for example, these people are all gathering on this remote island to have this lavish experience where Rafe Fiennes, who's the chef, is preparing this like luxurious menu of
Hand selected little
and they like
trinkets.
raise the cattle on the
Yeah.
island and they smoke it for like the exact number of days, and if you go one day more, there's so much bacteria in the meat that the
Mhm.
person's gonna die. And one of the sets of people that are there are these two food critics,
Mhm.
and it's like the magazine editor and the
Mhm.
writer who's this food critic who's like world famous. And all of their interactions were genuinely hilarious. They were so
Yes.
fucking funny, and no one laughed at it.
No one was laughing, and I think the people in the theater were taking it too seriously.
They were. And I think they thought that they were like legitimate characters that you were supposed to
Mhm.
like take seriously.
But I will agree with you about it being a satire of the heady horror, and I also think it was a satire on foodies.
Yes, absolutely.
Like clearly, and that
yeah,
whole bit
was amazing.
was amazing.
Yeah.
And it really, that was one of the main themes, honestly, like throughout the whole movie,
Mhm.
was just like how ridiculous food people are.
Yeah.
Like legit food people.
And I think what's really great is that it was like balanced and offset by Anya Taylor-Joy, who is like the normal level-headed person that like when you hear somebody being pretentious
Mhm.
and you hear somebody like, oh, the balance of salt and fat and blah 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 blah.
She was like, when are we going to eat real food?
Right.
Basically. And
Like-
like this is so ridiculous.
Like the one part where they serve her a dish and she just like straight up refuses to eat it.
Mhm.
And the chef is like so disappointed. She would be me in one of those types of restaurants.
Exactly.
Like if anybody ever took me to a restaurant where it's like a single bite prepared on this like plate full of like seashells, I would have been like, are you fucking kidding me? Like give me a steak. Like give
Right.
me even
a
like
potato.
honestly like a
some,
Caesar salad would be
yeah,
great.
like a single recognizable
Yeah.
piece of food would work.
So I think that like satire and comedy and also like commentary on foodie culture and also like hyper rich culture, like
Mhm.
super wealthy people. I thought overall everything in that movie was both hilarious to me and entertaining and
Mhm.
also like you said, like scary, and I personally, like, I loved it. Like, I loved it a lot. I don't know, I'm like
We
showing
can
my
tell.
cards here.
Yeah, we can tell. No, I mean, I really did too. I think your point about the audience is really what did it for me, because I think if we watched this at home,
You might have had a different reaction.
I think now, like, talking about it with you, like, I think it makes me like it more, because it's like when something's funny and like you're laughing at it by yourself, but like you want to laugh about it with somebody else who you know will appreciate it.
Yes.
It's like that. I know that you liked this movie, and so it's like I want to more so experience it with you, just you and me watching it, instead of like in a room full of people who don't get it.
I feel like whenever you went to the bathroom and I checked my phone, I saw it was written by the editor of The Onion. I was like, okay, so we were right.
Yeah,
everyone else was
we
wrong.
were right. Everyone else sucked. Well, sorry, everyone else didn't get it. I won't be that mean.
Capricorn energy is just, you know what, they
stomping on them.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Even though they didn't enjoy it, we definitely did. And I think there were some parts of the movie that, besides the comedy, I really want to highlight, which is, first and foremost, the cinematography was very specific and it was very unique, because the way they shot the food, and they had the little clips of like the actual menu with like the titles of the food coming on screen, it really did read like we were watching one of those shows that's like on Food Network, but it's not like the Pioneer Woman cooking in her kitchen.
Right.
It's like a group of chefs and they're talking about the dishes, and like kind of like the Chopped chef.
I was gonna say like Chopped,
yeah.
like the rich elevated version of Chopped.
Yes.
Basically.
I thought that blend of stark Nordic production design that is always creepy.
Yeah.
Like, plus having that kind of Food Network-y feel. It was just such like a really cool blend that I wasn't expecting.
I've never experienced together like horror and food and satire. And that's the thing I will say about this movie. It was unexpected.
Very original.
Very original, very unexpected, very creative. Because it is so original, it is so kind of innovative in a way as far as the genre. I'm telling you, funny people are just so freaking smart.
I know. I love it.
Funny people are just so freaking brilliant. And it makes so much sense to me that this person who wrote it has something to do with The Onion, because we love The Onion.
And I also read that the other co-writer worked on like Late Night Seth Meyers.
Gotcha.
Like, he's a comedy writer as well.
Wow.
And really, like, from the dawn of time, comedy and horror go hand in hand.
Oh, yeah.
And I think having such a good balance of horror and comedy, and also like really, really strong performances.
Yes.
Like Ralph Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy both killed it.
Absolutely blew it out of the water.
They were both so good. And honestly, like, I don't think I've ever seen her bad in anything.
No, she couldn't be.
I will say that there were occasional parts where he felt like he was just acting like Voldemort. And I was just like, I could hear Voldemort, like that really slow kind of like serpentile, like,
God, but I love his voice.
I know, it's so great. So like he was great. He wasn't like reinventing the wheel by any means, but he played a really great villain, and Anya Taylor-Joy just killed it as always. And I don't know, I are you ready for your popcorn rating?
Yeah, let's do popcorns.
It's a large.
It's a large for you.
Yeah, it's a large.
Okay. I think if I saw it again,
you might large it.
I would give it a large.
You might upgrade.
I think if I saw it again in a different environment, I would absolutely give it a large.
Yeah.
For this experience, it is a medium for me. But I think overall, just like removed from the situation of seeing it in an awkward, dead ass theater, I don't really have anything that I would have changed about it. I don't really have any major issues with it. But my major issue was just that no one else was laughing and I felt awkward. But like, that's it.
How dare they?
Yeah, like it was just like they kind of ruined it for me. But I think this is something we will absolutely watch again.
Definitely.
And I think what will be funny about us watching it again is that I think we're going to be like laughing our asses off.
If we actually like get the freedom to be
Yeah,
ourselves.
if we just like watched it at home, because this is definitely watchable at home.
They're holding us back.
They were like stifling me. They were silencing me.
They were silencing us.
I was silenced. And so anyways, I guess I'm a medium and a large. Who's to say? It's really all up in the air. It's just me.
It's just like shopping at Old Navy.
What a niche joke that if you understand that, we love you so much. Nothing has ever been more relatable for me personally, a frequent Old Navy shopper. And again, if you get that joke, we love you.
Love you, babes. Welcome back, everybody, to the spoiler portion of the podcast. We're still cackling over the
We'll never get over
shopping
it.
at Old Navy. I just want to say that the second they rolled out a mat onto the floor, I was like, who's gonna die here?
Who's gonna lay on that little carpet?
Yep. And I had about 100 scenarios in my head of what was gonna happen.
Uh-huh.
And the sous chef killing himself was the last thing on my list.
Yeah, I think on everyone's.
Basically, they start this meal, and the first courses are weird and unusual, and there's this kind of like tension in the air, but nothing violent has happened.
Nothing.
There has been
Not
no
a thing.
threat of violence.
No,
It's just strange.
just weird.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden is it the third course, I believe?
I believe so.
They call it the mess.
Mm-hmm.
And they roll out this like carpet. So they roll it out, and the sous chef and the chef stand next to each other, having this weird moment where the chef is like
Just shitting on him. He's
him.
like, he's good, but he's not great, and he's never going
to be great. And you're just sitting there thinking like, okay, so they're both standing on this mat, and he's talking shit on this guy, and the course is called the mess. So I was like, Ralph Fiennes is gonna slit his throat. And when he steps back and the sous chef takes out a gun and shoots himself in the mouth, I was like, oh shit, it's gonna be this kind of movie.
Also, before that happened, remember the little like shower curtains fell in the background, like
That was
in front
yep.
of the other chefs.
So
Like
that it would block
yeah.
the blood, and then they like pulled it back again.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. So basically, like, if you don't plan on seeing this movie, the whole point is that the menu is killing everyone.
Yeah, it's like there is a menu of food, but like the main point of the whole experience is that everyone that's there is going to die.
There's this couple that is like they're regulars, but they never show appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
There's a group of like investors in this like restaurateurs group that purchased this restaurant from him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's pissed with them, and they did like illegal shit, so he's gonna kill them. And probably the funniest reason that he wants to kill someone is there's an actor played by John Leguizamo, and he at one point is like, why are you killing me? Like, what did I do?
Right. He's like,
And-
I'm just an old washed up
Yeah,
actor.
he's like, what the fuck did I do? And he goes, well, there was a Sunday where that's the only day I don't work, and I can only enjoy life on Sunday. And so I decided to go to the cinema and watch a movie. And he saw this movie that John Leguizamo's character was in,
Mhm.
and he said it was terrible and it ruined his whole day. And so
Yes.
that's why he wants to kill.
Yes, and he said that the image of his face in that movie and how he is now like haunts him because it reminds him of like an artist who gets washed up or whose purpose gets lost, which is like basically what the chef himself is experiencing.
And my favorite thing was like right after that, the assistant to the actor just goes, but then like, why am I getting killed? And he goes, what college did you go to? And she goes, Brown. And he goes, did you take student loans out? And she goes, no. And he goes, you're gonna die.
He's like, I'm sorry, you still have to.
He's like, I'm sorry, you're gonna die. And it was just like his absolute disdain for rich people and for like the clientele that has, I mean, he even called himself out that he was just like, I made my service so high level and I priced myself into this position, which like he himself wants to die at the end of it.
Right.
Like, he's just like, fuck this.
Yeah. He's just like, I've literally lost every sense of purpose and passion in my life.
I thought one of the most interesting things too was that the reason why Anya Taylor-Joy's character is there was a really interesting reveal, I thought. And you're kind of unsure as to why she's there in the first place, because like at the beginning you see that her and Nicholas Holt's character come together and you think that they're a couple, but like a pretty new couple. Like it seems like they just started dating like a little bit ago. Early days love. And then we find out something really interesting like right off the bat.
Well, first, before that, we can already tell she's like a little bit not into this.
She's just like, whatever.
And she thinks it's super pretentious, but she's just kind of like, whatever you want to do, I guess. And he's like very into it. He's like obsessed with this chef. He's obsessed with food. He knows everything there is to know. They get on the island and we think they're kind of just like a new couple and they're still kind of like learning about each other. When the hostess is greeting everyone and welcoming everyone by their names, she says a different name than Anya Taylor-Joy's character, whose name is Margot.
Yeah.
And in that moment, we're kind of like, wait, who's that person? Like Miss Westervelt, I think, was the name of the other person.
Like, who is supposed to be here?
Who was supposed to be going with Nicholas Hoult. So we don't know.
The hostess and the chef seem visibly shaken that there is somebody not supposed to be there.
Yes.
Like they are unsettled. And you can see that there's like, I don't know if you've ever worked in events, but I have. And when something goes wrong at an event, there is so much communication that is done with eyes where it's just like, you know, somebody forgot something at the podium and you're just looking at somebody and you're shifting your eyes trying to be like, get up there and hand them that paper. And that whole scenario of like them trying to fix the situation or figure it out and like adjust what was happening was so like on point between the host and the chef. I thought that was great.
Yes, I agree. So they make us sweat it out a little bit. They don't immediately reveal to us what's happening, and we are trying to figure out the dynamics so badly. At least I know I was just like, who is she?
Because he's such a noob and he's so like cringe and icky that like she would never be with him. And so you're thinking the whole time like, why is she with him?
Yes. And he keeps saying like stupid shit like, you're the coolest girl here. And like, I didn't go to prom, but like you probably did.
Gave big I'm a nice guy energy.
Yeah, he certainly did.
Yeah.
So we come to find out that Anya Taylor-Joy is actually an escort.
Yep.
And funny enough, she has also been hired by that old couple. The husband of the old couple.
Yep.
And he keeps looking at her and they recognize each other. And so that's a whole separate dynamic.
Yeah.
Eventually, the chef basically makes Nicholas Holt's character admit how much he knew about this event before he came there. And we, the audience, and Anya Taylor-Joy find out that Nicholas Hoult knew this whole time that all of them were going to die before they got there.
And he took her anyway. And you wonder why, like, oh my God, like, why would he take somebody? He even says that you're not allowed to dine solo at that.
So he literally just hired someone to go with him so that he could experience this restaurant.
So fucked up. Well, it's funny because like throughout the entire thing, he wasn't shocked by any of the moments, but you know what I thought was really interesting was that he purposefully avoided eye contact with Anya Taylor-Joy during all of during the suicide when they cut the old guy's finger off. He
just kept eating.
And like he purposefully wasn't interacting with her, and it was almost like he was like emotionally separating himself with the idea that like this innocent girl is going to die.
Right.
So Ralph Fiennes, who plays Chef Julian, obviously like he notices that Margot isn't supposed to be there, and he like takes her aside and is basically like, you got to choose, are you us or them? And she was like, well, if I choose you, like, do I get to live, basically?
Right.
And he was like, oh no, we're all dying.
No, like you literally die either way.
But he straight up said to her, like, I can tell that you're a service worker.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really interesting because, like, she doesn't work in, like, a restaurant. Like, she is an escort,
right.
but, you know, she is a service worker. And that, like, recognition of, like, you're different and I know you are, I thought was really interesting. And I really
thought
liked
so
that.
too. And he was trying to figure out who she was, and we were trying to figure out who she was.
Yeah.
And that was a really cool kind of experience for us, I feel like, as an audience. But just the reveal, like, of finding out that Nicholas Holt's character, Tyler, I guess his name is, it was just like such a satire and such a kind of an expose, if you will, on like how extreme people can be when they're fascinated and obsessed with something. Because he literally was so obsessed with this food and this chef and this whole fucking thing that he was just like, well, I already know I'm gonna die and this bitch is gonna die with me, and like, let's just go, because it's just worth it.
It's like the stories that you're hearing right now of like Taylor Swift people like crying and like going into deep depression because they can't buy tickets because of Ticketmaster going down. Like, it's like a cultural event, and it's just like pointing at someone's like complete obsession with a celebrity or with like a certain thing and how much of a downfall it can be for somebody. But I thought what was really awesome was that when Chef Julian calls him out basically on bringing this innocent person, he first embarrasses him by making him cook for them, and he made this like horrible lamb meal with like leeks and
shallots,
undercooked lamb
butter,
and stuff. But then after he embarrasses him, the true punishment was that he can no longer stay for the whole meal, and he can't see the entirety of the menu, which is all that guy wanted to experience. And so we eventually see that he's hanging in like a back storage room later on. But I was like, oh man, that is so good. It was such a good touch.
Yeah, it really was. I thought that was,
can I tell
like,
you
chef's kiss.
My Abby hang up?
Yeah,
because there's always one.
There's always one hang up.
I don't think there's ever been a movie that I don't have a hang up with.
Nope.
I wish they had done more with the manhunt scene.
I knew that you were going to say that because you went to the bathroom.
Yeah. And it was like emergent. Like, I had to pee so bad.
Yeah.
I would not have left if it wasn't an emergency, because I was actually very interested at this point.
I know. And you came back and you're like, what did they do with the men? And I was like, nothing. They just brought them back. And you're like, oh. And like, I could tell you were pissed.
So like, first of all, the chef brings the sous chef, who's a woman, and she tells this whole long story alluding to sexual harassment the whole time that she's worked there, until he stopped doing it, but then he like ignored her completely and treated her like shit.
Right.
And so Chef Julian hands her a pair of scissors. And first of all, we thought she stabbed him in the dick.
We really thought she poked him in his pee-pee with a pair of scissors.
And we were like, oh shit. And then we realized it was his thigh. So that is another hang up. She should have stabbed
him in the dick. It would have been so much cooler.
It would have been so much cooler. And then he goes, men, you have a 45-second head start, and then my staff is going to catch you. And so like the men just start scattering.
Right.
And like Nicholas Holt's character is just like standing there with the ladies, and he's like, no, you too, you have to run too. And at that point, like, I just like had to go to the bathroom, and I figured that there was going to be a long enough chase scene that I was going to get back in time for whatever happened.
Right.
So I got up and left. And when I came back and found out that nothing happened with that, and they just caught them and brought them back to the room, I was like, why was that scene even a thing?
Yeah, pretty much. So the only thing different that happened besides them catching them is that the editor of the magazine was hiding in a chicken coop. And he was like pressed up against the wall, and there was like a window right above him, and one of the service workers like opened the window and handed him like a little dish, like a whole separate little dish of like this fancy little egg with like creme fraiche and stuff, and he was like, here's a little snack while we find the others. And he just like eats this little like delicate like egg in a chicken coop.
See, this movie's so funny.
Yeah. And then like they just brought them back, and that was it.
I didn't quite understand that.
The point of it.
Yeah. But besides that, I thought everything was great, and the ending was really interesting in that Anya Taylor-Joy gets to be a final girl who escapes using her mind instead of running and fighting back and screaming and crying like most final girls. She basically figures out the motive of this chef and why he's killing these people. And at one point she is in his house, which like no one's allowed to be in his house. Right. And she finds an old picture of him as a teenager at a burger joint. And she calls him out in the restaurant and is basically like, this isn't even food, dude. Like this is terrible. I want to send my meal back. And he's like, oh, well, what do you want then? And she's like, I want a cheeseburger.
Yeah. And it like unlocks a core memory in his brain.
Yeah.
And it's like a Ratatouille like, moment ding, where he's like, oh my God. A cheeseburger.
And she was like, and I want fries too. And he was like, crinkle cut or Juliet. But basically his whole speech that he gives to people was that he realizes that, again, he priced himself to this point that not only is he now serving all of these horrible, ungrateful, stuffy, pretentious people, but also he has become that, and he's disgusted with himself for it. And so when she says, like, I just want you to make me a cheeseburger, it's like he forgives her and is just like, you're good to go.
Like, take your cheeseburger.
So she the best thing was when she was like, you know what? My eyes were too big for my stomach. Can I get this in a to-go box? And he packs her the cheeseburger and she leaves. And I was like, what a genius way, because I thought it was going to be your typical horror movie where she was going to fight back, and having that moment play out between her and the chef was so much more like impactful and interesting than just having like her ruining the whole plan and saving everyone.
Right. I think it was so much more creative for sure.
And then she just ate her cheeseburger on the boat while Chef Julian burned everybody to death.
Burned him to a crisp.
Dressed them as s'mores.
He dressed them as s'mores, which that whole scene felt very Midsummer to me, because they had these little like shawls of marshmallows and then these little hats made of chocolate, and they painted these little like delicate little symbols. It did feel like Midsummer. And it felt like Midsummer.
It felt like when he's dressed as the bear and they burn him in the hut.
That's exactly what it felt like.
Absolutely.
So they were making fun of Midsummer basically in movies like that, like you said.
Yes, full satire.
And I thought that was really funny. Like, it was like, these people are all about to die, and we were laughing because, like, one of my favorite shots in this whole movie was when they cut to the food critic, and her hat of chocolate is melting into her eyes, and it's just like chocolate dripping on her face, and then they just all combust.
Yeah. And see, here's the thing, is that I feel like if somebody listens to this podcast and they don't have any plans of seeing this movie, or they just don't mind spoilers, and they're listening to us explain this right now, they're probably thinking, how did the people in that audience not laugh?
Right.
And like,
because it's so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. And I, again, felt so uncomfortable that I couldn't, like, it didn't feel like it was appropriate to laugh. But it was truly hilarious, and then also at the same time like fucked up and terrifying. And I just had a blast. Like, I truly enjoyed watching this movie.
Me too.
The first thing I said when we walked out of the theater was like, we're getting cheeseburgers.
Yeah, like, we have to get a cheeseburger.
So Culver's.
Yep. That'll do it.
That'll do it. All right, everybody, that does it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, we are going to be doing a special little Thanksgiving episode.
Ooh.
And it is going to be The Fabelmans, which is Steven Spielberg's. It looks so heartwarming and good, and I feel like I'm going to cry.
I always cry at a Steven Spielberg movie.
I know. And it's like his life.
Oh,
I can't wait.
I'm already crying.
So that will drop Black Friday, so you'll have something to listen to while you're eating a leftover turkey sandwich.
Yay.
So everybody, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Thanksgiving.
God. Yay. Enjoy either Friendsgiving this weekend, your Thanksgiving on Thursday, and we'll see you again on Friday.
Thanks for joining us on the ride home.